very different to the Marxist. He was very much more the intellectual, the professor. Yes. However, as we will see today, he nonetheless believed that sociology was meaningless. Well, it's meaningless if it did not effect change in the world. In fact, let me just read to you a little passage from the book, if I can find it. Preface to the first edition, the second page of it, in Roman numerals 26. And I'll just read it to you. Yet, because what we propose to study is above all reality, it does not follow that we should give up the idea of improving it. We would esteem our research not worth the labour of a single hour if its interests were merely speculative. So, he too is committed to change, to improvement, to amelioration. He very much believed in the idea of progress, as we will see. And the idea that society gets better over time. The world gets better and improves over time. Very committed to that project. If there were some reversals, they were not fundamental to the trajectory of society. And that is what he shared with Marx, and to a lesser extent Weber. Marx too thought that the future was what? Communism, utopian, a society in which we will realize our potentials. So did Smith, and in the end, I think so did Durkheim. For all the cautionary notes that he makes, he believes in progress. And of course, one of the reasons why we're reading Durkheim is because he was a founder. Really, I believe, the true founder of sociology. There is a fellow called Comte, another French guy, the Auguste Comte. Well, he was really very august. But he was really, in my view, much more the philosopher, and much less original in many ways than Durkheim. Durkheim made a real rupture with pre-existing social thought in putting the social society onto the map. And we talked about it a little last time in the context of his book called Suicide. So suicide, the most personal act that one can ever enter into, becomes for Durkheim a social act, a social fact. That suicides can be understood in terms of the types of societies in which they take place. Yes. So, Durkheim talks about societies which are very individualistic. And there we have egoistic suicide, where the focus is always on individual striving, and people cannot cope with this individual striving, this individual competitiveness, and they commit suicide. It's a sort of society in which sometimes students get involved in. And law students, really competitive. I've never been in law school, but I'm sure they're very competitive. And so you get highest rates of suicide in law school. Beware. That's a speculative remark. I haven't done the data analysis for that. But anyway, that's the idea of egoistic suicide. It's about the character of law schools. Yes, in case you're wondering. Yes. And then there is a very different notion of suicide. Well, not very different, slightly different, called anomic suicide. Does anybody know what anomie means? Anomie? Is your hand up? But who are you? Hold on. Courtney. Yes. Are you new to this semester?
I'm not.
Oh, you are new to me. Okay, Courtney, yes.
I don't know the word means, but I think, doesn't it have something to do with immigrants?
It could do. Because
they're not connected to the social fabric of where they're...
Do I know who you are?
No.
Oh, this is new hands. This is the most exciting thing that's happened to me in this new year since the inauguration. Very good. What's your name? Nicole. Okay.
A state of normlessness.
State of normlessness. Yes, Tracy.
When a society establishes its norms, its own set of values.
But what is anomie? The question is, what is anomie? Nicole said state of normlessness. Are you saying something different?
Yeah, I set it up. It's going in the opposite direction of what is established by society as a norm.
Well, that's right. So normlessness without norms. Yes, Laura, very good, yeah.
Was it just about the lack of laws or without laws?
So norms are something often to do with laws. Yes.
Isn't not belonging to a society?
Not belonging to a society, perhaps, or being detached from a society. Yes, that's more like Courtney's idea. Yes. Whoa. Oh, you're really going to destroy me. Yes, at the back there. At the back, the very back, Marianne. Yes. Sorry, I can't hear you.
A lack of awareness of the connections to parts of society.
Lack of awareness of the connections between different parts of society. Yes. You're all doing very well, Marianne. Is it Marianne? No, it's not Marianne. You're here, so I'm sorry. My apologies. You had your hand. Yes, who are you?
I'm Grace.
Oh, Grace. Okay, dokie. This is very good. Somebody's been teaching you good sociology. I wonder who it is. Could be me. Yeah, right. Very good. Yes, very good. This is right. Yes, and I mean, well, we started out with the idea, well, Courtney, we'll come back to your immigrants in a second, but Nicole, that's right, state of normlessness. That's the definition, normlessness. You know, when we are in a society where the norms are not clear or we're confused about the norms, it's a state of, in a sense, deregulation, when people are indeed disconnected from society. Yes. And when they're confused about what norms to follow, life is not, society doesn't direct them, doesn't make it clear. When so often it is said, who suffers from normlessness, according to the Durkheimians? It is those people who are immigrants, perhaps. Why? Because they come from one society to another society, right? And they find a different set of norms. So they get, in the stereotypical story, they get a little bit confused. So they're in a state of normlessness. Because they're coming from one society to another. Or sometimes, you know, when you're making a transition from one stage in life to another, it is often said that teenagers or adolescents are in a state of normlessness. And therefore perhaps likely to commit deviant acts, of which suicide may be one. Yes. This is the Durkheimian perspective. That there are times in one's life, there are certain groups in society, there are certain societies themselves, you know, societies that go through economic crises, like we are going through today, that should lead to anomic suicides. We could really do some interesting analysis of suicides, to see whether it's true, whether suicides are going up over the last year. But anyway, that's the idea of the anomic suicide, in which the rules and norms that we are supposed to follow no longer pertain, or that there are ambiguity as to how we should pursue our lives, some state of confusion. Right, but again, the point is that suicide is a function of the type of society. Right? And then there is one more form of suicide that Durkheim talks about. Anybody remember? Yeah? Altruistic. Indeed, altruistic suicide. Altruistic. Do you know what altruistic suicide is? Very good. Who are you? Oh, you're Jane, that's right. When there are too many rules, when in fact there's too much pressure on people to conform. They say sometimes that Japanese society is an overly conformist society and therefore get these altruistic suicides. Or perhaps when being in the military, the pressure to conform is so that it generates such an intense pressure that people commit suicide. You know, what do you think? Do you think there's a real pressure to conform in the military? Do you know anybody ever committed suicide in the military?
5 people in the last 4 months.
5 people in the last 4 months. What do you mean, that you know, or?
That was all funerals.
You went to all their... Whoa. Well, there may be other... I mean, the Durkheimian immediate response is that it's the pressure of conformity, but there are probably other reasons why. As a sociologist, what would you speculate as to what is the cause of suicide in the military?
I think probably lack of networks or connections people can confide in. Maybe... you can look at family, maybe, not having support systems.
So it would be more the deregulation, the anomic suicide that you would... Very good, yeah. So anyway, again, you can see how we can think of suicide in terms of its... So that was Durkheim's enormously great contribution, to recognize in the most individual acts, social pressures, social forces, what he calls social facts. Jessica.
Wait, so which suicide would be... Because I thought the opposite suicide was when, like suicide bombers and stuff, where they're basically tweeting for a cause, and that's why it's like certain countries.
Durkheim didn't have to deal with suicide bombers. Yeah, that's interesting. Yes, well, what would that be? That's very interesting. Well, yes, I suppose that would be the most obvious category to put it in, would be, indeed. Hiam, what do you think? Speak up.
Because they're not really, because they're suicide bombers, they're not connected to the normal society. They don't get the equal rights that society offers, so that's
interesting. So it's the lack of connections that you're suggesting, as opposed to the argument that Jessica is making, and she has an expression on her face indicates that she doesn't agree with you, Ian. Namely, that her argument is that in fact it is the incredible, deeply integrated character of the suicide bomber into communities that actually becomes the motivating power of that suicide. Yes, that's very interesting, Elizabeth. Yeah. Yes.
And I think it was better off without people, or better off because of your efforts?
Better off. I'm not sure whether there is this calculus of being better off or not. It's the pressure to conform, and which is part of a group project that has very definitive goals, that imposes those goals on all its members. Yeah. Yes, Jessica, you can have your...
Earlier, pressure to conform causes suicide. It was not like saying they're so pressured and then they can't deal with it and then they commit suicide.
Yeah.
The pressure to
right, see, that's what they see. That's the real problem with the suicide bomber, because they're deliberate suicide. I mean, the sense of very so deliberate and purposive, and that's why Durkheim is not in Durkheim's categories almost, because Durkheim sees the person who commits suicide as somehow the effect of the world around, rather than an active agent, transforming the world. So I think what you're doing is really challenging Durkheim's whole framework with another sociological framework, namely a more politically oriented framework. Yes, very good. You're taking Fanon to Durkheim. Yes. A war of movement to Durkheim. Yes, maybe. Interesting. Fascinating. Yes, maybe. Very good. That's a very interesting question. But it's still, we're on the world of sociology. We're talking about not individuals, but we're not talking about individualistic explanation, psychology, we're talking about social forces. Very good. I can see you're going to be spontaneous Durkheimians here. That's wonderful. Very good. Terrific. Yes. All right. So all my point was, we're not going to read suicide, but my point is very simple, that Durkheim put on the map the very idea of social forces as explaining individual behavior. Yes. All right. Now, another thing that Durkheim was fascinated by was order. You might say that Marx and Engels were fascinated by revolution. Durkheim had had enough of revolution. He's a Frenchman. In France, every moment there is revolution. Yeah, really bolshy, those French. Yes. The contentious French, as Charles Tilly, a very famous sociologist, called one of his books. The contentious, they're always engaged in struggles. You go to Paris and you think everything is well organized, but suddenly, whoops, it erupts. Marches, demonstrations, strikes. This is the land for Mike Levian, anarchistic land of struggles. Where is he? There he is, right. I don't know what he's doing in the United States of America. Anyway, the point is that Durkheim was horrified by this continual eruption of struggle and disorder. And so he was concerned with order, with imposing order on the French. He was obsessed with order. And how order can be reproduced and maintained. Yes. He was interested in the coherence of society, with the integration of society, with consensus in society, with what holds society together, the cement. The apocryphal story is that he was always curious why and how it was ever possible for a bottle of milk to land on his doorstep every morning. How was this possible? How was it society was coordinated in such a way that every day he gets up at, I don't know, he probably gets up at 5, a guy like him, and finds there a bottle of milk. It's extraordinary. Just as I find extraordinary, here you are, you come to me, and every Tuesday and Thursday, 2 o'clock, without fail, at least 3/4 of you are here. You come to the same place as me. And not only that, you bring your books. Look at these blue books, they're all out. Not all of you, but nearly all of you. It is an amazing phenomenon, this coordination of society. We take it for granted, it's like the rain, the weather, but in fact, it is actually quite a miracle that we're able to actually coordinate our activities the way we do. How is it possible? What are the conditions for it? Matthew?
If he's horrified by an atmosphere of continual revolution, does he ever talk about the idea of the constantly revolutionizing means of production within capitalism? Is he horrified by that as well?
Well, we will see. The book is called The Division of Labor. We'll see. But I'm just giving you we will see. We will see how he deals with the division of labor. It's a good question. Yes, indeed, we live in an economy that's continually transforming itself. How does Durkheim want to organize it so it coheres? Good question. He will have an answer or two for you, Matthew. Just wait. You're not going to hold you in suspense. Yes. But you also got to understand that Durkheim was living through particularly tumultuous times. 1858 was when he was born. 1871, as you may remember, was the Civil War in France. Was basically the occupation of France by the Prussian army. And it was a defeat of France. This was a time of war, defeat. It was also a time, 1890 to 1920 we defined as a period of socialism, period of socialism, golden years in Europe. So this was a period of struggle, of class struggle, of working class struggle in France and elsewhere. So he was living through a period of considerable turmoil. So again, not surprisingly, he was interested in the question of order. Yeah. It's interesting. 1871, the Civil War in France. How did Lenin talk about that? Do you remember? Do you remember how Lenin talked about that? How Lenin used that? The Paris Commune? Greg? Sorry, the what? It could have been the end of capitalism, yes, but the beginning of the communism and socialism. He used the Paris Commune and the way the workers were organizing. Paris was surrounded by the German army, Prussian army, but in Paris, the working class, the artisans, had actually organized the city themselves. There was a commune. It was communism in one city, surrounded city, for a short time. And Lenin used that as an exemplar of the possibilities of true socialism, an exemplar of the possibilities. Whereas, of course, Durkheim is going to see it as the challenge to order. Now, Durkheim actually has a quite ambivalent relationship to socialism. I'm going to make an argument that in fact Durkheim was a sort of socialist. But we'll only be able to make the argument when we read book 3. And we ain't started book 1 yet. But I'm going to make the argument that he was a sort of socialist, and many people have actually made similar sorts of arguments. But explicitly what he saw was that the socialist movement that he saw around him was what? It was a manifestation of the disturbance of society, the lack of integration of society. He saw this as a pathology, that the existence of a socialist movement trying to overthrow capitalism was to him